Hello, kiddies. It's your old pal, the Crypt Keeper. And you're listening to Three Guys in a Flick. The good, the bad, and the gruesomely absurd.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Now you know what we are. Now you know what you are. You'll never grow old, Michael, and you'll never die. But you must feed.
Three guys and a flick with Don, Ken, and John. Dive into the movies well after the dawn. From the good to the bad to the wildly absurd. They give a fuck about films. Their voices are heard.
Welcome back. You are listening to Three Guys in a Flick. This is where we review the good, the bad, and the absurd. Tonight's episode, The Lost Boys. Beware spoilers. Coming to you from the Hudson's Bluff comic book shop on the Santa Clara Boardwalk, my name is Don. Hey, John, put those comic books down and get over here.
But they have a Batman number 14.
That's a very serious book.
I'm a serious person.
Hey, where's Ken?
I don't know. He was over there talking to some guys on some bikes.
And did he leave with them?
Said something about wanting to go grab a bite.
Oh, okay. Well, best of luck, buddy. Best of luck. Tonight we are talking about The Lost Boys. Lost Boys comes to us from a new listener request.
Hey, Don, since we are in Santa Clara on the boardwalk, why don't you do it in a fun little radio DJ voice?
We recently got a request from a new listener, Jay Namaste, and she says, "Hi there, love your podcast. My son actually turned me on to it a few months ago. I'm putting in my suggestion for The Lost Boys, one of our all-time faves. Thanks." Well, Jay Namaste, this one is for you. Released on July 31st, 1987, The Lost Boys was directed by Joel Schumacher. Story by Janice Fisher and James Jeremias. Screenplay by Janice, James, and Jeffrey Boham. And it stars Jason Patric, Kiefer Sutherland, Corey Haim, Jamie Gertz, Corey Feldman, Edward Herman, Bernard Hughes, Diane Wiest, and a bunch of other vampire chow.
How'd this movie do, Don?
This movie was made for $9 million and brought in $32 million.
Not bad for a film that was filmed actually over 21 days.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, just 21 days.
Wow. Yeah. Did you see this in the theater?
You know, I think I did. I can't remember for sure, but I have seen this multiple times. How about yourself?
I definitely did not see this in the theater. But I did watch it on VHS, and I remember seeing it in the 80s at the time, you know, shortly after it came out or whatever. And I haven't watched it in a while, so going back and watching it again was fun.
I remember when I first did see it, though, this instantly became one of my favorite movies. It became one of my go-to movies. I just loved it from the start. What was your initial feeling on it?
I don't think I was all that hyped on it. I remember that it was fun and, you know, the soundtrack was catchy, but I don't know. It's just been one of those movies that I saw back then, waited a really long time to watch it again. And it's a staple of the 80s. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you can't take that away from it.
Well, you bring up the soundtrack. That was, I think, one of the biggest draws to me is I just loved all the songs on the soundtrack. I actually owned the soundtrack. Yeah,
it's not a bad soundtrack as far as soundtracks go. InXS is featured on it a lot, and you have Lou Gramm, who was from Foreigner. He does a song on it. But I remember watching it, and as I was watching it last night, I think I was more impacted by the soundtrack, and I caught more of it, because I remember watching it, and the scene where they're riding on the bikes, and the song that's playing, I'm listening to him going, "Oh, is that Foreigner?" And I went, "Oh no, that's Lou Gramm." And then everything kind of clicked and came back to me about the soundtrack.
Sure it wasn't because of Timmy Capello?
Is that the bare-chested sax player?
The greased-up, bare-chested sax player.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get into that. We'll definitely get into that.
This movie was almost directed by, I think, one of your favorites.
Richard Donner. Yeah, he doesn't do it. He goes on to do Lethal Weapon, and they give it to Joel Schumacher. Do you know a lot of Joel Schumacher's work?
Not a lot.
Do you remember a movie called Batman Forever?
Yes, I do. Is that where we get bat nipples from?
Yes, that was the first time we were introduced to the bat nipples and Joel Schumacher as our new Batman director. And the one he does after Batman Forever is Batman and Robin, which is, some say, one of the worst movies ever made. So he's got that on his resume. He also did St. Elmo's Fire. Did you ever see St. Elmo's Fire?
I have not, which I'm really surprised by myself because I used to love those type of movies.
Yeah, the Brat Pack movies.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I remember watching it way back when. I remember Demi Moore freaking out and Rob Lowe, ironically, being shirtless and playing a saxophone. But other than that, I don't really remember much about St. Elmo's Fire.
Did you ever read what Richard Donner's plan for this movie was?
The Goonies with vampires.
Yeah, he was going to make it all be like kid vampires. All the vampires would have been like 13, 14 years old with a Goonie kind of fun, humorous slant to it with the Goon, a fun, humorous adventure slant to it.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And I think if Donner was attached and you had Corey Feldman in the mix, I mean, very much Goonies, right? So I'm kind of glad that he didn't. He goes on to make the cinematic gold Lethal Weapon. And, the rest is history from there.
This is also where we get our introduction to the two Coreys. This was their first movie together.
After this, they go on to do a bunch of movies, a lot of them straight to video. But the one that stands out is the one I think they do right after this one, which is License to Drive.
That's the one I was thinking about.
And I remember seeing License to Drive like 3 or 4 times in the theater. So, yeah. I love the Coreys back then.
Well, Corey Feldman was almost not in this movie. He was actually fired.
Why? For being a dick?
No, he showed up. I guess he had a big drug problem at the time. And he showed up after a bender or something like that on his first day of filming. Couldn't remember his lines. Couldn't function. They had to keep waking him up. And Joel fired him.
Which is funny because he's in like 5 minutes of this movie.
Yeah, and then he basically came back the next day, begged for his job back, promised that he would stay sober throughout the whole thing, probably get help, and Joel let him back in.
Yeah, well, and the rest is history, right? Jamie Gertz, what do you think of Jamie Gertz?
I had known her a lot from TV. I can't remember if I saw Solar Babies. I know she was in that movie with Jason Patric. But I think I saw it once. Otherwise, I always thought she was a good actress. She was attractive.
Yeah. I remember her from Less Than Zero.
She was always a good girl in most things I'd seen her in.
I don't know about
like a brainiac.
That. Well, I don't. It depends on what we're talking about. In Less Than Zero, she wasn't.
Okay.
And I thought she was good as the female lead, I guess, if you will.
They wanted a blonde. Kind of almost like a ditzy blonde to play this role, but Jason Patric fought for her to get her into this movie. Yeah,
well, I'm glad he did. They have good chemistry together.
Mm-hmm.
So, speaking of Jason Patric, what'd you think?
Ironically, we just did a movie with his dad, Exorcist.
Yeah. Father Damien.
Yeah, Father Damien is his father. I thought he was good in this movie. He worked for me. He was a little watching it back then. It worked. It was great. It was fun. Nowadays, he looks a little cheesy.
Yeah, well, I will be the first one to admit he looks pretty cool.
Yeah,
I like the look of Michael in this film.
Well, you like the hair.
Well, of course, absolutely, I like the hair, and his performance isn't really okay. There's really only one scene in particular that I'm talking about, and we'll get there when we go through the plot. But I thought he did a good job overall, and I really like Jason Patric as an actor. Mm-hmm. Did you ever see The Losers?
No,
it's the DC version of the A-Team.
No, I don't think I ever have.
He plays the bad guy in that.
Oh.
Watch that film.
Interesting.
It's fucking great. I think you'd really dig it. Captain America's in it. Gamora's in it.
I'll have to check.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan's in it. I'm trying to think if there's any
I love
other...
Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Oh, he's a fucking badass. Oh, Idris Elba's in it. So yeah, check it out.
There was, I guess, a lot of scenes that they cut out of him. So he was in the movie actually a lot more. But it probably makes sense. One of them was showing him working, I think, at a gas station. And that's how he earns the money to buy his leather jacket later on the boardwalk.
Yeah. See, we don't need that shit.
No.
So, Kiefer Sutherland, David.
For a person who had, one of the least amount of lines compared to the other big actors in this movie, I think he left the longest lasting impression of this movie.
He's a fucking cool dude in this movie. I love the hair, again, very 80s, the look, the style. And then you're right. Watching it last night, I was watching his performance, and he commits. And there's a couple of bits in here that he really is menacing and kind of douchey, and he plays the character very well.
He is given credit by many for Joel Schumacher and Kiefer Sutherland are given credit for kind of starting the idea of the young, sexy, badass vampire.
Oh, I believe it. 1987, we're still, kind of scratching the surface in a lot of the things. And as the world is changing, and it's the MTV era, that doesn't shock me. And I'm glad that it happened, because it's just another version of a monster that we've all grown up to love, which ultimately is Dracula. But you know what I'm saying.
But what did you think of the theme of this movie? What did you think of the Peter Pan? They were going for a Peter Pan idea of Peter Pan as the bad guy, basically creating his group of lost boys.
I didn't get that at all.
You didn't get that?
No, I got teenage vampires with Peter Pan elements, like the flying and the never grow old, never die bit. That's very Peter Panish to me, but it also translates to the vampire lore very well. So to me, this has always been about the vampires.
Yeah, well, of course it's about the vampires, but when the writers and I think Richard Donner were trying to come up with the idea for this, they actually went to Peter Pan. That's where they got the name The Lost Boys for this movie.
Oh, right.
And the whole point of it was supposed to be, what if Peter Pan was a vampire? And that's how he stayed young and was able to fly and do all of those things, is because he was, a bloodsucker. So I thought that was kind of interesting how they did it. And I keep thinking more about this movie and kind of came up with some of my own theories of David is not Peter Pan. He is just one of the Lost Boys. You can almost think of him as from Hook, he's Rufio. He is the leader of the Lost Boys, while Peter Pan is off doing his own thing. I think Peter Pan in this movie is Max, and his Wendy is Lucy. And he's trying to get Lucy and her family to join him, just like Peter Pan did in the Disney version. He got Wendy's family to fly off with him. So I think there are a lot of these Peter Pan elements throughout this whole movie.
Oh, well, there you go. You can definitely draw the parallel for sure.
What do you think of Edward Herman as the head vampire?
He was fine. He kind of reminded me of a Max Headroom kind of character, the way he dressed. And I think it was just the style back then. But, well, I'll tell you what, when I watched it way back when, I didn't see that coming. So that was good.
I felt he reminded me a lot of Herman Munster, the actor who played him.
Oh, Fred Gwynn?
Yeah, Fred Gwynn, which is funny because when I thought about that every time I saw this movie, I found out he was the first pick for playing the head vampire.
Fred Gwynn was?
Fred Gwynn was.
Wasn't he too old by then?
That's why I think they
didn't
passed
he do,
on him.
He did Pet Sematary.
Yeah, I think they passed on him because of that. But he was the original. That's who they originally thought for the role of Max.
Oh. And rounding out the cast, you have Bernard Hughes, who plays Grandpa / Diane Wiest's dad, and Diane Wiest.
Well, I kind of thought Bernard kind of in some scenes stole the show.
He was funny.
He was funny.
He brought a... I don't want to say a sense of realism, but groundedness. He kind of brought some groundedness to the story when he's in there. And I liked his relationship with the boys, being the grandpa and being the supportive dad to the mother or to his daughter who had to come home.
Now, I know you are big into internet, theories. Did you know the internet theory behind Grandpa?
No, dude. I did not know the internet theory behind Grandpa.
There is a popular theory that Joel Schumacher has not denied that Grandpa is a half vampire. That would explain the reason why nobody could touch his root beers on that drawer, things like that, because it's actually blood.
Emerson family, teenager Michael, his younger brother Sam, and their recently divorced mother Lucy moved to the seaside town of Santa Clara, California to live with Lucy's quirky father, Grandpa. Lucy gets a job at a video store owned by Max, who takes a romantic interest in her. Meanwhile, Sam befriends Edgar and Alan Frog, self-proclaimed vampire hunters working at the local comic book store. They give Sam a horror comic to educate him on the vampire threat they claim has overrun the town. Michael becomes infatuated with Star, a mysterious girl who he meets on the boardwalk, but she's involved with David, the charismatic leader of a local gang. David lures Michael into the group, leading him to their hideout in a sunken luxury hotel. Michael drinks from the bottle of blood, ignoring Star's warning, and begins his transformation into a vampire. The gang pushes Michael to embrace his new nature, but he resists feeding on humans. So this movie opens up, classic 80s opening. We're flying over the water, and we get the Cry Little Sister tune. What do you think of this opening with meeting of the vampires on the merry-go-round and this whole interaction?
I thought it was an interesting. It showed us right away who our bad guys were, kind of what to expect, as well as the security guard coming in and interrupting things, and then him being the first victim.
I thought I told you guys to stay off the boardwalk. Yeah, it is very stylized. And, the slow motion with Kiefer walking and just how he walks up to the girl and, he pretty much does whatever the fuck he wants because he's got the gang behind him.
Did you get the foreshadow in this scene?
Yes. This is the order they die.
Yeah, the order that we basically see them walking is the order they die.
Yeah. What'd you think of their look?
Again, back then, badass.
I think right now, badass.
Yeah.
I love the long hair.
Yeah.
The one that makes me laugh all the time, though, is the one from Bill and Ted. His long hair looks very much clipped on. Mm-hmm. So
I almost want to say that I like just to have, a little bit of facial hair, not a full beard. It may have come from this movie.
Oh, from David?
Yeah, from David.
He's pretty fucking pale, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, he starts to pick a fight with this dude and his girlfriend on the merry-go-round, and the security guard comes up, busted up, and then we cut to later that night, and the security guard is walking to his car. What do you think of this first attack?
It was interesting that a lot of the flying attacks in this movie, we never get to see the vampire until I think the camp or the big fire pit, the fire scene.
It's all their point of view.
Yeah, it's all their point of view. Them flying in with the kind of that music or whatever it is, that sound effect they have, and then just grabbing that guy and ripping the door off because he's holding so tight. It's pretty badass.
Immediately, I'm thinking vampires can fly, so are they attacking them as bats? But it doesn't matter because we don't see it. Mm-hmm. And then we cut to the next day, and we are introduced to Michael, Sam, and Lucy. They're driving in.
Would you call this a montage of them kind of driving through the town?
No, it's just a scene.
Well, because they keep cutting to different parts of the town, different people in the town, and just giving us a look at life in Santa Clara.
I don't know if I would call it a montage per se, but that's just me. I like this bit because this band does a cover of Strange.
People Are Strange.
People Are Strange. And I like it because it fits with what we're watching. It fits with the visuals. And immediately we are shown that things are just kind of strange in this town.
I've always wondered about this. I know that they hired like 2,000 local people to be extras in this movie. And whether or not when they're driving through the town, was that just things that they filmed through town, or if those were some of the extras?
Who knows?
But they captured some strange folks.
Yeah. And we also see that Michael unloads his motorbike from the trailer, which he has to have a motorbike because David and the gang have a motorbike, right? Mm-hmm. So, and then we meet Lucy's dad,
who's passed out on the front porch, or looks like he's passed out.
My first question is that as this was happening is, why is she so calm walking up? She doesn't say, Dad? They just walk up.
Well, you notice it kind of rubs off on her kids because I think Corey Haim says, if he's dead, can we go home?
Yeah, well, I don't think Corey Haim wanted to be there from jump.
Yeah.
They didn't want to move. But we find out that Lucy is recently divorced, and now she's going back to live with her dad, trying to get back up on her feet, and she has her 2 boys. So we get a tour of the house. I like how Sam calls it something out of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Little shout out there.
Mm-hmm.
And what'd you think of the whole house and Grandpa and this whole bit?
Loved Grandpa from the start. The house was creepy as hell with all of his taxidermy, which again is another part of the theory of him being half vampire. Is he's got all these dead animals around, which could lead to him draining the blood of those animals to drink. Who knows? Anyway, I was kind of there with Sam and Michael on their impressions of the house.
Yeah. And then
Could you survive with no TV?
In 1987, probably not.
Yeah.
I probably would have. Well, I don't know. You have the boardwalk down the street, so I mean, but you could only do that for so long.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we cut to them going to the boardwalk, and we cut to this concert. And the first thing that immediately grabbed my attention was the slick, bare-chested saxophone player.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Why did it grab you, or why is he there?
Why is he there?
I don't know. He's done several interviews, and I can't remember why he said he was picked for this movie. But again, it was Joel Schumacher going for all kinds of what he thought was just sexy in this movie. He wanted to create a sexy vampire movie, and he felt that was sexy. That guy has gone on to make a whole career out of this. He actually tours. He toured after this movie with Tina Turner.
I couldn't help but laugh every time this guy was on screen.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think he was sexy then. I don't think he's sexy now.
You can still go and see him. He still tours.
Well, you have fun with that. And so during this concert with this awesome sax player, Michael notices Star and immediately infatuated with her.
Did you notice that before Michael saw Star, he was really close buddy with his younger brother? They were playing around. They're joking around. The moment he saw the girl, fuck his brother.
Did you not grow up in the same time as I did? That's how it always works.
Well, I was the younger brother.
So you were the Corey Haim.
So I was the one who was just kind of pushed away.
Yeah. But yeah, Michael immediately takes a liking to Jamie Gertz and starts to follow her or stalk her, if you will. And, Sam's giving Michael a hard time this whole time. And then Michael's like, "Don't you have something better to do?" And this is where Corey sees the comic book shop.
Which, I wouldn't have even been at that concert. I would have totally been in that comic book shop the whole time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And as soon as I saw shirtless sax guy, I probably would have turned around and walked away too. Mm-hmm. I just didn't think he was a very good singer. Anyways, Corey goes into the fucking comic book shop and Michael goes to follow Star.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, it was the first time I think at that scene that you really see Corey's full outfit. What did you think of that big long coat he was wearing over the wild shirt?
I never thought anything of it.
It screamed 80s to me.
Oh, well, yeah, this movie is 1987. Going into it, everything screams 80s to me. But I guess if I had to, and well, it's funny that you say that because last night watching it, I really noticed it because you said something about Schumacher saying something about potentially maybe hinting to the fact that Corey's character was gay. And as I was thinking about that last night watching it, I remember thinking, who the fuck cares?
Yeah, I don't know why they would make a big deal of it, but it was pointed out on the internet that Joel Schumacher may have been trying to just kind of introduce gay lead characters into movies. And one of the biggest hints was that Sam had a poster of Rob Lowe on his closet door on the inside of the closet.
It was on the outside.
Oh, they said, they apparently was on the closet to suggest
I saw
Sam,
it, yeah.
that Sam was in the closet. That was the hint that he was trying to put out there.
Oh, no, I thought it was, might have been, I guess when Mom comes in and closes the door was open, so it could have been in the closet.
Yeah, it was supposed to be in the closet.
I'd have to go back and look. But I also saw a bigger poster of Molly Ringwald.
Yeah.
So what does that say?
Well,
and there's a poster in his room for Reform School for Girls.
Yeah.
So what does that say?
Well, what it says is on the outside, this is one thing, but in the closet is where he's at.
Oh. Well,
that's what they were hinting. And the flamboyant clothes, I don't think it makes a freaking difference. I still think he was a fun character.
Yeah, make a difference or not, the people who put it on the internet want people to talk about it, and that's what we just did, so they win.
I liked the movie before I knew that. I liked the movie after I knew that.
Yeah, it didn't make it, like I said, it didn't make a difference to me either. I can see why they would think that, but who cares? My point is, it
Yeah.
shouldn't have to come up.
No. So this is where we get to meet the Frog Brothers. What did you think of Edgar and Allan?
I thought if anyone was really trying to overact and steal this movie, it was fucking Corey Feldman.
Did you know that Joel Schumacher gave him directions of go home and watch every Stallone and Chuck Norris movie you can?
Yeah, and he tried to combine all of it, and knowing that, listening to his voice and the way he acts, completely can see it.
Well, he was Rambo, basically.
Kind of, yeah.
With the bandana even.
Yeah. I like how Edgar and Allan give Sam shit about his clothes, coming from the guy who's wearing a cutoff flannel and the other guy is wearing army fatigues.
I thought it was funny. Yeah, total contrast. They even come up and start giving each other shit. And you're right. You know, for being on this boardwalk where everyone dresses very 80s and flamboyant, or like gang members, these two guys are dressed up in army fatigues.
Yeah.
And then they quickly show their parents who are just drugged out hippies.
I wasn't sure if those were his parents or not, but they keep showing it, so I put 2 and 2 together. So yeah.
Did you get where Edgar and Allan are named after?
Edgar Allan Poe?
Yep, exactly. So I assume that they have a little brother or a pet named Poe.
Oh, maybe. Oh, we didn't get that in the sequels?
No, we did not get that in the sequel, but we do get the Frog Brothers in the sequels.
The last of the sequels. The second one comes back, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And there was a push by Corey Feldman and other people to create a Frog Brothers TV series, but I think it ended up becoming Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
And the next day, we get this little bit with Sam and Grandpa, and we get to see Grandpa's car from the garage.
It's a Ford Fairlane, I think.
I think so too, and a kind of a little glimpse of life during the daytime, and then that night. They all go back to the boardwalk.
Of course, because there's nothing else to do.
And I love the bit where Michael's getting his new leather jacket. I thought that was so funny. And, of course, the night before, the Frog Brothers gave Sam a horror comic book. And it was something about vampires. And then tonight, they give Sam another comic book, How to Survive or Kill Vampires or whatever. And they keep telling him, you're going to need this. You're going to need this, right? And Michael sees...
Well, I think Star comes up to him and starts talking to him as he's looking at something. Oh, no, he's looking at getting his ears pierced, which obviously he got the leather jacket and he was going to get his ear pierced all because of seeing David with Star and everything.
Of course.
So he's trying to look at it. And she comes up and she basically says, don't pay their prices. I'll do it for free.
Right. And so they start talking. And as they get to Michael's bike, the gang shows up. And what'd you think of this whole showdown?
Well, this, I think, isn't this where we first get to hear Kiefer Sutherland talk? Where he basically says, Star, get on the bike.
No, he talks in the opening.
Does he?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess he does.
Yeah.
But anyway, he basically has Star. I mean, he snaps his fingers. She gets on the back of the bike. And then David kind of looks over at Michael and says, do you know where this bluff is? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, well, follow or, come with us. And he's like, I can't keep up with you. You don't have to keep up. You just have to follow.
And so they take off. What'd you think of this whole bit with them flying or driving in the fog and just this whole...
Well, first of all, that sand alone would have been a pain in the ass. I would have fallen all over the place.
Do you know how to ride a bike? A motorcycle?
I have ridden once.
Oh, have you?
Not just basically like a bike like Michael's, not a full, big motorbike.
Sure.
But I've ridden one and I probably have fallen off of it because I've fallen off of everything. And that beach scene would have just killed me. I would have dug the bike right into the beach.
I was thinking, God, what a pain in the ass to ride on the sand.
And then going into the fog, that would probably have been a big nope. Yeah. And then racing towards that cliff. And you could see, you could almost know where the cliff's edge was because you had the lighthouse. You could see a lighthouse in the distance showing you this is not going to end well.
Yeah. And, of course, Michael sees the edge and skids out and of course, David knows where it is because he does this all the time. And Michael's all pissed off. What are you trying to do? You trying to kill me? And he punches David. And then I like the look that David gives Michael and he asks him, how far are you willing to go?
Well, I thought that look that David then gives back to him was almost a sign of respect. This is not a guy who's afraid.
No, I didn't think David respected him at all.
You don't
Not
think
until
so?
he drinks the blood.
Yeah.
I think that David is toying with him. I don't know exactly what the infatuation with Michael is from David. Is it because that Michael showed such an interest in Star?
Well, at first,
And then we're told that he's supposed to be Star's first kill, but Max's theory about Lucy always being the one kind of debunks that. So
Well,
I'm curious to know why Michael or why David takes such an interest in Michael. And I think obviously it's because of Star.
well, let me give you my theory on this. The first night that Michael saw Star at the concert is also the night that Lucy walked into the video shop and got the job from Max. So at that point, when Michael made the eye contact with Star, David's thought was, okay, you're going to kill him. You're going to drink him. That next day, Max had already contacted David and said, don't kill him, recruit him. There's a little bit of foreshadowing in this scene too, where he punches David. Did you catch the foreshadowing here?
No.
When he runs up to David, he says, you, just you, you fight me kind of thing, which is how this movie pretty much ends with their fight scene of just them fighting.
That's a bit of a stretch, but yeah, I can see it. I took it as him going up to David and saying, just you and me. It was to keep all the other fuckers out of it. And in the end, I assumed it was just going to be those two because the other ones kept dying off.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, I got it.
Of the David's gang, besides David, did you have a favorite of any of the rest of them?
Yeah. The only other the only brunette in the bunch. I thought he was a badass.
I don't know. I wanted to say Alex Winter just because he was the one who looked the most innocent of the group, but I'm going with Laddie. Laddie looked like the badass of the group, especially when he goes all Eddie Munster later.
He's only half vampire, so does that count?
Well, I still think it counts because he's not initiated or whatever. He hasn't drinking the blood yet.
Right. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But okay. Laddie, and I like the dark-haired dude.
Yeah. Then we get taken to the cave, which is basically this old luxury hotel that sank down a bit, I guess sank underground during an earthquake.
Uh-huh.
What did you think of this whole scene?
I thought it fit. I like when vampires have layers.
Mm-hmm.
If they have a coffin, cool. It fits with the lore. But realistically, they don't really need a coffin. They just need dark.
Mm-hmm.
They just need no sunlight, right?
They also need the protection or some way to watch their backs.
Right. Or yeah, and then yes, exactly. And so I thought this was kind of a nice take on it, and it's probably the first time I had seen it back in '87. What do you think?
I thought it was a whole interesting scene. I liked the look. I liked the fact like he had a Jim Morrison poster up on the cave, and it was kind of just, you're right, it's kind of this layer effect. I also like how we almost get the Jedi mind tricks going on here with David playing mind tricks on Michael.
Oh yeah. I thought this bit was it was hard for me to watch because Jason Patric just kind of looks like a deer in headlights through this entire thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't say anything, or he doesn't challenge David, or he doesn't even look like, what the fuck? But the rice and maggot bit I thought was funny,
Mm-hmm.
or very vampire-y. He's showing his powers. But the fact that Michael doesn't do anything kind of gets what he deserves, right?
Yeah, I still think he's at this point trying to figure out what the fuck's going on. And I think in a way, I don't know if he's trying to impress David or kind of show up David to get Star's attention or figure things out, or if he really does want to become one of the gang at that moment.
Oh, I think he's doing this to impress Star and David.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's trying to show that he's not afraid of David. Yeah.
One of the things that bothers me about this scene is when David has them bring out the bottle of wine, which is supposedly David's blood. I'm guessing it was actually Max's blood. But they bring out the bottle, and Star tells him not to drink. She says, don't drink it. Doesn't she even say it's blood?
No, he says, I think, what's his name? David calls it blood. Because they tell him it's blood, and he doesn't believe it.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, right, it's probably just wine. But she tells him, she says, you don't have to do this.
She says, don't do this. And you don't have to do this. And later on, it's Michael who gets all pissed off at her for letting him drink the wine.
Yeah, well, he didn't fucking know at the time.
Yeah, but she told him not to do it.
He didn't, in his right mind, he didn't think that they were vampires, even though they just played the Jedi mind trick on him, which at that point I would have been fucking, see ya. I don't care how good you look or what I think you can do to me. I'm gone, right? So he drinks his blood.
Gets kind of drunk or whatever.
Yeah, he's like, woo, woo, woo. And he's getting roofied. And so they go to the train track. And he's like, what the fuck are we doing out here? And David's being all coy. I don't know, Michael. What are we doing out here? Hey, Marco, tell him what we're doing out here. And they hang underneath the train track.
Would you have done that?
Fuck no.
No.
Fuck no. Well, wait. Am I a vampire at this point?
No.
Then fuck no.
But you're drunk.
No, absolutely fucking not.
So even when I've been at my drunkest, I haven't been that stupid.
Oh my God. So they're hanging underneath a train track. And I figure it's like an initiation, right? If you can hold on to the train track as it goes across, you pass. But they all fall. And Michael's like, what the fuck? He even tries to pull himself up because his common sense finally kicks in. But he can't. He's too tired. He falls.
Again, the order they fall is the order they die.
Ah.
They did that again, kind of shows that whole thing again.
Oh, there you go. And he falls, and then he falls onto his bed, and he wakes up.
I kind of like that transition.
So do I, because we don't need to know what happens per se.
Mm-hmm.
We know that he's all dirtied up and whatever, but he falls and lands on his bed.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
did you notice he had the earring?
Yep. I sure did.
And basically after this, we learn that Michael's been asleep all day, and he's starting to show a little bit of signs of being sensitive to light, things like that.
People are strange when you're a stranger. Faces look ugly when you're alone. Women seem wicked when you're unwanted. Streets are uneven when you're down, when you're strange.
As Michael experiences changes, sensitivity to light, a fading reflection, and craving for blood, Sam learns the only way to save him is by killing the head vampire. Sam and the Frog Brothers suspect Max, but their tests fail after he's invited into their home, rendering him immune to traditional vampire vulnerabilities. Meanwhile, Michael learns Star and Laddie, a child in the gang, are also partly transformed and haven't killed. So the next morning, Michael wakes up, right? And Mom calls and says, hey, I want you to stay home and watch Sam while I go out to dinner with Max. So this whole Max thing is starting to take shape, right?
The other thing she says is, just hang around or something like that for your brother's bath. How old is Corey Haim?
Yeah, well, we're about to get there, right?
Yeah.
So he stays home and he's watching his brother, but he starts to feel a little weird. Michael and Sam are downstairs, and Sam's giving him shit about his earring, and you're sleeping all day, and you're just kind of being a dick, and Michael's very dismissive and like, piss off, fuck off, I'm a vampire now. And all of a sudden we hear the bikes, and the bikes show up, and you can hear them, and you can see the bright lights, and then Michael's like, fuck this, I'm going to open the door, and he opens the door, and they're gone. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that, and I kept thinking... Do you think as vampires, I know they can fly, do you think they fly with their bikes?
That's what I was thinking. Where else were the bikes gone?
Well, one of the scenes early on, like in the beginning of the movie, it showed them flying, right?
Yeah.
Into the boardwalk. When they leave that boardwalk, they get on their bikes. Where the fuck did their bikes come from?
Right. They might stash them somewhere, but in this instance, it was instantaneously, so what the fuck?
I think they fly with the bikes.
Yeah. And this leads to my what the fuck moment of the movie. You ready for it?
Sure.
Hey, Michael, what was that? I don't know. Go take your bath. What the fuck was that? Joel Schumacher, what were you writing there?
I was thinking, is he 8 years old? Is he like a kid?
He kind of looks like it, but there's no way. They're 15, 16 years old at least.
Yeah.
And okay, he is kind of adorable singing in the bathtub, and the song's kind of catchy, blah, blah, blah. But what this is supposed to, I think, tell us is while he's taking a bath being cleaned for dinner, Michael's transformation starts again, and his stomach gets all fucked up, and he has this hunger.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, you just said it, he was upstairs getting clean for dinner. Well, he's going to be Michael's dinner.
Right. But what we did not expect was Nanook.
which of course is sensing something, probably the smell of evil vampires, dead people.
Yeah. Animals, man. Animals are very attuned to that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Even Thorn,
Mhm.
Max's dog.
His hell, hellhound.
His hellhound. That's exactly right. And so, Michael is kind of trying to fight the urge, but he's walking upstairs, and we keep cutting back to Corey, back to Michael, back to Corey. And then finally, Michael says, fuck it, I'm going to eat this motherfucker. And he opens the door, and Nanook to the rescue.
Nanook jumps on him, which foreshadows what he does later.
Yes, just as Corey goes underwater, so he can't really see or understand what's happening. Nanook jumps on him, and somehow, miraculously, that door closes. I don't know how the fuck it would close.
Yeah, I guess that Michael grabbed the door on the way out, try to steady himself.
His arms aren't long enough. There's no way that happens.
I don't know. But anyway, he falls all the way down the stairs with the dog.
And Corey pops up like, what the fuck? And he goes downstairs.
What the fuck you do to my dog?
Yeah. And Nanook bit him.
Yeah.
He was protecting Sam. And he even says that. He says he was protecting you, Sam. And he's like, protecting me from what? And they stand up, and Corey's like, look at your reflection, Michael. And it's half. It reminded me kind of like Back to the Future when the picture is disappearing.
I love the quote from this, which is, as you just said, look at your reflection in the mirror. You're a creature of the night, Michael, just like out of the comic book. You're a vampire, Michael. My own brother is a damn blood-sucking vampire. You wait till Mom gets home.
I'm telling Mom, buddy.
Yeah.
And so Michael's like, what the fuck?
So I think,
Right.
Doesn't Sam run upstairs, close his door, and then Michael starts to fight the urge to fly?
Well, he lays down and he falls asleep, and then while he's sleeping, he floats all the way to the top, and then it's like he's stuck to the top, and then he makes his way outside, and he flies in front of Sam's window, and Mom calls from her date.
Yeah, I love how Sam yells at him, don't kill me, Michael. I'm basically a good kid.
Yeah. And so Michael's pleading with him, you're my brother, blah, blah, blah. And he gets him in, but the damage is done because Sam called Mom. Mom's on her way home, and Mom has stood up Max. She's on her way home. Sam gets Michael into the room, and they're kind of like, we'll figure this out together. I won't kill you. You're my brother, blah, 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 blah. And so Mom gets home, and Sam tells her, I just had a reaction to a comic book.
Yeah, I overreacted and heard something.
Has that ever happened to you? Have you ever overreacted like that whilst reading a comic book?
Never called anybody and screamed, they're trying to kill me. I don't even know if I've ever been scared by a comic book.
Have you ever read horror comic books?
I've read horror comic books.
Oh, okay.
But no, I mean, I've got a pretty extensive collection. So.
Yes, I do. And so, Sam does the only thing he can think of, and he calls the Frog Brothers.
Yeah, and they're like, basically, we'll come over and kill him.
Right. And he's like, no, he's my fucking brother. And then the whole head vampire thing comes into light, and there has to be a head vampire.
Here's my question. How did they jump to the conclusion that Max was the head vampire?
I think what tips him off is the next day when Lucy and Sam go deliver the bottle of wine during the day, Thorn attacks her or chases her.
That's right. And he
looks at the thing. There's a hellhound, and so that's what he's doing. So he goes to work after it's dark. He has the hellhound, and there was something else. There was three rules of three. So the Frog Brothers are like, cool, let's get this motherfucker.
We'll test him.
And so Max is coming over for dinner at 8:00. Who the fuck eats dinner at 8:00? And Sam comes in and says, hey, these are my new friends, the Frog Brothers. They're going to join us for dinner. And Lucy's like, okay. And so what were the traits that they were looking for? Bad breath.
Allergic to garlic.
And a reflection.
And I think they even did holy water.
No, I don't think they did.
Because they splashed something on him. Remember, he goes, is it burning? And they
go,
right.
Right. So we had garlic, holy water, reflection, and...
bad breath, yeah. Well, before that, when Max first comes to the door, Michael answers the door, and he says, it's only, respectful.
I'm only going to come in if you invite me.
You're invited.
Yeah, so he's inviting the vampire in, which is one of the rules. Don't invite the vampire in.
Yeah.
So anyway, he's at the dinner table, and he gets some cheese, and it turns out to be shredded garlic, which, I don't know how you don't notice that smell from the get-go, but whatever, it's a movie, we'll go with it. They spill water on him, and it doesn't do anything. They kill the lights, and they come back with a mirror and you can see his reflection. And so they're like, fuck, it's not Max. Who the fuck is it? Right. And this is the bit where Michael then goes to the gang and he's like, what the fuck, guys? What's happening? And this is where David tells them or shows them, all right, you want to know what you are? You want to know what's happening? Here's what it is. And they go to the beach and they see these surf Nazis having a bonfire.
Yeah.
And this is the most graphic scene. And this is really the only time we get any kills that we see that are not off screen. So Joel Schumacher manages to take an 1.5-hour movie and give us a bunch of kills, but only actually showing it once. Hats off to him on that, because I think, again, whatever happens in your head is worse than what happens on screen.
This whole scene of just the slaughter of the surf Nazis, did it make you hungry?
No, dude, it didn't make me hungry.
I just thought it was so interesting because normally you see vampires biting the necks or arms or things like that. They were biting the top of people's heads.
I thought that was genius. And you see the blood spurting out,
Yeah.
because in 1987, that's one of those, oh, fuck moments. You know, today, that's in a PG movie. But yeah, and it slowly dawns on Michael that, okay, I'm a fucking vampire. I got to feed. I got to do something, right? But he fights the urge and he resists. And after it's all done, David comes back and he says, now you know what we are. Now you know what you are. Like it or not, doesn't matter. But there is one absolute. And that absolute is you must feed. So you have to kill at some point. And he's like, no. You know,
This scene, we also get to see what the vampires look like, you know, in their full monster form with the teeth and everything. What did you think of the look?
I like the reveal. I like the David. He's normal face. He goes into the shadow and then he comes back and he's the vampire. And then from there, you know, and that's a trope that the Lost Boys may have started. I don't know. I'd have to go back and watch earlier vampire films from 1987. But it reminded me a lot of like From Dusk Till Dawn. 1 minute they're normal. The next minute they're the vampire face. And I like that. I like that transition. And so
Michael goes home after this and he's up talking to Sam and we hear Star's voice from down below on the first floor outside. And Sam asks some question like, is she one of them? Because, you know, he just told him all about David and the cave and everything. And is she one of them? And he turns around. And the next thing he sees is Star at the window.
she's a bloodsucker.
She's one of them.
Yeah. And this is where we find out that Star and Laddie are only half as well. They have not made their first kill. And I guess we should clear something up. In order to become a full vampire in this movie, you have to drink someone's blood and you have to make a kill. Michael, Sam, nor Laddie have made a kill yet, so they are still considered half vampires, which is why they can walk around in the sun.
And if they kill the head vampire, they revert back to normal.
Yes. And so this is where we learn that Star actually loves Michael.
Well, she's kind of got a thing for him.
No, she tells him she loves him.
Oh.
After 26 minutes together. And then can she help her and Laddie? And he's like,
well, he's a complete dick to her.
well, I would be too. You just fucked me. You just took me to the fucking lair of the vampires and you let them turn me into a fucking vampire. What the fuck?
Hey, I honestly think Michael needs to take responsibility for his own actions.
Then we boned, and then I had to go out and watch David kill some motherfuckers.
Yeah, basically.
So he says no, and she fucking takes off. And
I love how Sam yells back at her, "Don't kill anyone."
Oh, that's right. He's always so polite.
That scream I hear. Cry, little sister. Come to your brother.
Determined to end the curse, Michael leads Sam and the Frog Brothers to the gang's lair, where they stake Marco. David and the others awaken, but the group escapes with Star and Laddie. That night, the gang attacks the Emerson home. In the ensuing battle, Sam, Nanook, and the Frog Brothers killed Paul and Dwayne, while Michael defeats David by impaling him on antlers. However, Michael's transformation remains incomplete, revealing David was not the head vampire. Max returns with Lucy and reveals he is the true head vampire. He confesses his plan to turn Michael and Sam, forcing Lucy to join him as the mother of his lost boys. As Max attempts to claim Lucy, Grandpa crashes his truck through the house, impaling Max on the fence post and killing him. With Max's death, Michael, Star, and Laddie are freed from their curse. Grandpa dryly quips, "The one thing about living in Santa Clara I could never stomach, all the damn vampires." Roll credits. And so Michael's like, okay, what the fuck? And Sam's like, relax, dude. I got these two guys to totally help us.
Yeah, he's like, they're badass vampire killers.
And so they take...
Do you think they had ever killed a vampire?
I don't think they killed a one. I don't think they have. I think they believe in it. I think they think it really happens, but I don't think they killed any.
Mm-hmm.
So they borrow Grandpa's car. And last night, this is the first time I noticed it. And of course, I was right. Why is Grandpa putting stakes in the ground with the points going up?
I actually wrote that down. That was strange to me because I kept thinking, isn't he doing that upside down?
And then I started thinking, well, that's how they killed David. And I'm like, no, they're antlers. All right, I guess I'll just wait and watch.
Well, my theory on that is they probably had it the correct way the first time or something. And Joel Schumacher said, we need them to see that they're sharp and pointed. So that way, when the truck hits the wall and they fly out and kill Max, we understand they're giant stakes.
Yeah. Well, once we got to the end and that happens, that's when I went, oh, that's why.
Yeah.
So Michael takes Sam and the Frog Brothers to the lair, and their plan is to kill the head vampire, though they don't know who the head vampire is.
Yeah, they don't know because Michael is like, was he passed out in the car?
Not yet. They get into the cave, and they see Star and Laddie, and they go to kill her, and Michael's like, "Don't you touch her!"
Yeah,
and I'm thinking, dude, if the vampires are asleep, they're not deaf.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Why are you screaming?
Yeah, so he takes them out, and they don't know who David is. So
Right.
they decide to kill the smallest of the vampires.
Yeah, well, they go crawling through tunnels, a la Goonies, and they get to their chamber or wherever where they're all hanging upside down.
One of the things, I like the comment that they make that, they're not in coffins because this whole place is one big coffin. But the whole bat feet thing I thought was a little weird.
That was kind of a little weird. A little weird. I guess that made me think that they actually did turn into bats and rip people or pull people away.
Yeah.
Which they have done periodically through this movie, we should mention.
Yeah. So anyway, they get up there and they stake Marco.
And he's not the head vampire.
Well,
and whilst staking Marco, they wake all the other vampires up.
What'd you think of the blood, the vampire blood that's sprayed out?
It's okay.
Did you notice the sparkles in it?
No, I didn't.
Oh, yeah, they put sparkles in it. It was the way that Corey Haim described it. It was thick like jelly with sparkles in it.
Well, that's just disappointing.
Yeah.
So anyways.
You notice if you watch it closely, when they get out into the sunlight, you can see the sparkles all over them.
Huh. I'll have to check that out the next time I watch it.
Yeah.
So they make it out. And why is it that killing one vampire causes the earth to shake?
I don't know. It's different with every kill we find out later.
Oh, interesting.
But one of the things I thought was interesting was the whole, they go to escape and David's chasing them. And David, is grabbing their feet. And as they pull Sam's leg, whatever, out, and he gets burned, that one little tear.
It hurt him.
Well, it's interesting story is that wasn't in the script. They had Kiefer Sutherland obviously wearing vampire contacts or whatever to get his eyes to look weird. And he had had problems with it stinging so bad that his eyes had been tearing a lot. That was because of the contact, and Joel Schumacher loved the look and kept it in.
Yeah. Happy accidents.
I thought that worked. I thought it was great.
It could be twofold. A, Marco died.
Mm-hmm.
And B, getting burned by the fucking sun hurt. Yeah. So, yeah, I liked it too. And so they take everybody back to Grandpa's house because they have to get ready. Because they know David and them are coming for Star and Laddie. Mm-hmm. And so they tell Grandpa, hey, Grandpa, the widow Johnson called, wants you to come over early. And I like his reply. Oh, I have a date? He's going to go get some. Because he's already said he had. So
looks like I'm not the only one that got some.
Yeah, that's right. And I think Michael did get some at that point. Mm-hmm. So anyways, they're getting ready for the house. And this is kind of a montage, right? Getting traps and getting the house ready.
Going into the church, getting the holy water.
Yep, all of that stuff. I like first of all, I love the huge pound of or the huge sack of garlic they got. Where the fuck do you get that at?
Well, my biggest question has always been, and I got a couple theories, but the bathtub full of holy water. They didn't take that much holy water from the church. Did they make their own holy water, like mix it with regular water?
Yeah, no. They filled up the water. They filled up the bathtub about half full, and then they dumped the canteens of holy water in it, and it all mixes together.
Okay.
Yeah, and then they put the garlic in it, but apparently garlic didn't work. But doesn't matter.
No.
Different rules, different vampires.
We also get, I think it's Corey Feldman explaining, how vampires die. Each one dies a different way. And he goes through an order of like some implode, some explode, some just go peacefully, some burst into flames or whatever. So, which is interesting because that's what happens to each one.
And so the gang gets there, and the first one to get it is the blonde-haired one, not Alex Winter, but the other dude. And he's attacking the Frog Brothers, and they get him with some holy water from a squirt gun. But ultimately,
who's our hero again?
It's fucking Nanook,
yeah,
fucking gorgeous dog, and pushes the vampire into the bathtub of holy water,
which melts him. And this was always confusing to me, but I guess the way it's explained is his essence, whatever, gets into the house, and the house implodes.
Yeah, that's dumb. That doesn't make any sense.
But that was supposed to be, because like I said in the beginning, when the way that he explained what happens to him, there had to be an imploding.
Yeah, well, either way, for it to look like a discount version of the Nightmare on Elm Street Johnny Depp kill, fucking dumb. I didn't get it. I didn't understand it.
Yeah, it was very odd that he was in the plumbing.
Yeah. And then so, it's kind of a cat and mouse thing. They're looking around for each other. And
what'd you think of Death by Hi-Fi or Death by Stereo?
I thought it was cheesy. But fun for 1987.
When did he?
And it gives Corey Haim a chance to deliver a cool one-liner.
Yeah, but when did he learn to shoot a bow? I mean, guess maybe he was in the Boy Scouts.
In Phoenix, sure, yeah, on the weekends. His dad would take him to archery camp while his dad went and banged the receptionist.
I kept trying to watch when he shoots the first arrow. Because I remembered, from the last time I saw it, of the "you missed" thing, not the second time or something like that. For his hands to be moving or something to notch that second arrow. And yeah, I never saw when he notched the second arrow.
No, because neither did I. But he ultimately gets him, and I guess with the force of the arrow is able to thrust the body all the way back into the stereo in order to electrocute him and blow him up. Well, so be it.
Yeah, Sam is pretty strong. He's pretty badass.
I guess so.
Yeah, that's a Rambo bow.
And then we get to David and Michael. What'd you think of this fight?
Over too quick.
It was really quick. Yeah.
Just they just pushed each other, which was kind of interesting. And you knew right away that taxidermy room was coming into play with all those antlers. I mean, they kind of showed you.
Oh, yeah.
That's where it was going to end. And then the whole line of, was it my bloods? What did he say?
He says, "Don't fight me, Michael. My blood is in yours." And Michael says, "So is mine." What?
I know, that was just kind of a weird.
What?
Now, again, theories, but this one's actually been proven correct, supposedly. David didn't die. David actually lived. That's why David doesn't explode. And the reason why it's been proven is if you do count the sequels, which I don't think you do, it is mentioned that David went on to spawn, like he lived for another 20 years, and he went on to spawn the bad guy in the second movie.
Oh, well.
And I guess to bridge that gap, the book version of The Lost Boys explains that.
Oh, well, it's not what I saw.
Yeah.
And so they think that they killed David. They think that it's over. And Sam and the Frog Brothers are like, "Yeah, this worked." And Star's like, no, it didn't. I don't feel any better. And then I like it's very subtle, but I like this bit where Michael tells Star, "Don't let Sam see me like this."
Lighting. Joel Schumacher did an interesting thing with the lighting in this movie. Like in that scene, you could really see Michael's eyes, and you could see that he still has those weird yellow vampire eyes. There's also the whole thing, and I never quite figured it out. I've been trying to figure it out. Why was there always a beam of light on David? Did you notice that when he was in the cave, there was a beam of light really highlighting him? When he died, there was the whole light that came down on him. Why was it always a beam of light on him?
Who knows? Maybe they were trying to say that he was angelic.
I don't know.
Which is weird because he's a vampire.
The only thing I could find was Joel Schumacher wanted to make him the center of attention.
Well, there's that.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that the lighting was really good in this film, and the look of the film is very 80s and very nostalgic for me. It's always fun to go back and watch films that look like this. And so we find out that no, David's not the fucking vampire.
He's not the head vampire.
Sorry. You're right. Not the head fucking vampire. And they're like, what the fuck? What the fuck? And then mom comes home with Max. And this is where we get the bit where Max confesses, oh, I'm sorry, Lucy. This is all my fault.
Yes.
David and my boys were out of control, blah, blah, blah.
The
and
other
we find out that Max is the head vampire.
Well, Max goes into the room with David, and this was another thing that I've always kind of questioned. There's lots of theories out there. Did you notice that all of a sudden Kiefer Sutherland is clean shaven?
No, I didn't.
He is very clean shaven and looks very almost like he's younger.
Oh, no. I did notice that actually.
And some people have theories, of course, out there. One of them was that he's reverted back to his innocent whatever self. Another one is they just screwed up. That it was a goof, that somehow they filmed the next scene with him.
Which one do you believe?
I think they just goofed.
Yeah.
I would love, we went to a convention recently that Kiefer Sutherland was supposed to be at, but unfortunately he couldn't go. I was going to ask him about that.
Huh.
I wanted to ask him if that was just a goof.
After finding out that, Max is the head vampire, he reveals his full diabolical plan. Everyone attacks him, but he dispatches them, and he's going to bite Lucy's neck, which is the first time we see a traditional vampire turning attempt, if you will.
Well, he got Sam held in a headlock and is about to kill him.
Well, something
unless
like that.
Lucy gives in.
Yeah, I mean, either way, he's about to turn her. And, of course, we hear the cucaracha horn. And I always thought that Grandpa drove directly into the house. He backs into the house, which is why the stakes are in there the way they are. And there's that sharpened pole again, John. It's coming back to play. And it sticks Max through the chest a la Heart. Max dies. Everyone is freed. And I really appreciate how this movie ends. This is just real quick, right? Grandpa doesn't make a big deal about anything that he is seeing right now. Dead vampires in the house.
His house
blood,
is all fucked up.
Blood and water, fucking sewage everywhere. He doesn't give one fucking rat's ass. He comes in, grabs his root beer. I'm going to call it fucking root beer because it didn't look red. And I know that blood's not always red, but whatever. I'm going to call it motherfucking root beer. And he says, the only thing I couldn't stand about this place was the fucking vampires. And the looks on their faces are like, wait, you knew about this the whole fucking time?
Well, I always, especially at this scene with the whole theory of that he's half vampires, to me, he just became Blade.
No, not to me. I never once believed that he's half vampire.
He's a vampire killer.
No.
And
a vampire killer, yes, but I don't think he's half vampire.
Yeah, I think he's done that before.
Maybe that's why he has all the antlers and shit.
One of the things, I don't know if it was a scene that was cut or if it was just in the novel version of this book, or if it was just in the book version of this movie, is somewhere there was supposed to be a painting that showed ancient times with vampires or something like that. And Max was going to be in the picture, which was going to reveal Max was the older brother of Dracula.
Oh.
So he had been around since then.
Oh.
And I don't know if you knew this, but in the original, I think Bram Stoker's version of Dracula, Dracula's wife was named Lucy. And so that's why she got that name, Lucy. She was supposed to become his new wife.
There you go.
I like the lore.
Yeah. All right. What do you think? You ready to rate this flick?
Bite me, host boy.
I'm going to fucking bite you. All right. You are going to drink my blood and become my slave. And at my command, you will lick the dog shit off of my boot heel.
Don't promise me a good time.
From now on, you will be known as Spot. That's from Dusk Till Dawn. We rate our movies on a scale from 1 to 5 fucks. 5 fucks being cinematic gold and 1 fuck being like, what the fuck?
And what's a 0?
A 0 fuck movie is a movie where you get done watching it with your buddy and you look over to him and you say, Oh, for shit's sake. What the hell is this? I want 1 hour and 39 minutes of my life back.
Or, in other words,
we don't give
a fuck.
All right. You want to go or you want me to go?
I can go first if you'd like.
All right, fire away.
Save the best for last.
Oh, no, probably not.
The Lost Boys has definitely earned its 80s cult classic status. It redefined the vampire cinema genre. Kiefer Sutherland's portrayal of David is both charismatic and chilling, setting a tone for modern vampire villains and anti-heroes. The rebellious edge and sinister charm makes me feel kind of like he's a vampire version of Fonzie. Jason Patric delivers a good performance, but could have been better in my opinion. Corey Haim and Corey Feldman usher us into the age of Corys, going on to star in many iconic 80s films. The killer soundtrack is one of my favorite things to come out of the 80s, with Lost in the Shadows and Cry Little Sister. Plus, you never forget the unforgettable saxophone solo by the shirtless rocker. This film is unapologetically 80s. It's a must-watch for fans of vampire movies and those who love movies with that 80s vibe. Is it the best vampire movie out there? Probably not, but it's definitely a fun watch every time I see it. It's for those reasons I'm giving The Lost Boys a rating. You want to guess?
4 fucks.
4 fucks? I am giving it 4 out of 5 fucks.
4 fucks from the comic book guy. For me, going back and watching The Lost Boys last night was more entertaining than I expected. I liked it more than I had in the past. However, even with the cool soundtrack, the good-looking shots, the okay performances, there were still a lot of scenes where I was rolling my eyes at. And given vampire legend and lore, all of that, they do a pretty good job of keeping to what I feel are the basic rules. As far as a vampire movie, is it in my top 5? No. Is it in my top 10? Yeah, probably is. And so it's with those reasons I'm giving The Lost Boys 3.75 fucks. Oh, we just got a message in from a courier. Hanging with some guys, drinking some wine, be back next week. For the record, Lost Boys 3.5 fucks. Signed sincerely, the professor?
Well, I guess we'll see him later tonight.
Well, I guess so. With 3.5 fucks from the professor, 4 fucks from the comic book guy, and 3.75 fucks from yours truly, that gives the Lost Boys an average of 3.75 fucks, which now ties it in the 4th spot with Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Kill Bill Volume 2, The Train to Busan, Die Hard, The Shawshank Redemption, and Elf. It is slightly better than Goodfellas, Pulp Fiction, Black Panther, Quiet Place. It is slightly worse than Lethal Weapon, Ghostbusters, Kill Bill Volume 1, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Let me ask you this question.
Oh, for fuck's sakes. There is no way it is better than Goodfellas, Pulp Fiction, Black Panther, or A Quiet Place, or Stand By Me, or Rocky, or Ocean's. You guys are fucking tripping in your ratings. You know that, right? Ugh.
Maybe
go on. Go on. I'm sorry.
Anyway,
I cut you off.
My question is this our first vampire movie we have reviewed, or is this our second? It all comes down to, do you consider Dr. Sleep a vampire movie?
No, I do not consider Dr. Sleep a vampire movie.
Even though they suck out the life essence of people.
What does vampires usually suck out?
Blood in some movies, life essence, the soul in others.
Name a movie where it was life essence and soul and not blood.
If you go back to the original Bram Stoker's Dracula, didn't always drink blood. Vampire legend didn't start with them drinking blood. It actually started in, I think, might be Greek mythology, where it wasn't always blood. Blood wasn't a rule of vampires.
Well, they're wrong,
So,
first of all. It is blood.
Mm-hmm.
And so, to answer your question, quite frankly, no, I don't consider it a vampire movie at all.
Okay, so this would then be our first vampire movie I believe we reviewed. Speaking of the rules of vampires, or whatever, the
Vampirism.
they're typically, I came up with 10 different things that usually are ways to kill or hurt a vampire. They include sunlight. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Stakes through the heart,
Yes.
decapitation,
I suppose.
garlic,
Depends on what kind of vampire.
holy symbols,
I would say yes.
running water,
Running regular water?
like river water, running water under
Yeah.
a bridge.
No, I wouldn't count that.
That was actually a classic one in the original vampire lore and was supposed to be in this movie that David and his gang could not cross running water.
Oh, well.
Anyway, invitation rule,
Yep.
iron and silver,
Yep.
a resting place, like a place that they needed to sleep in a coffin, things like that.
Oh, where it has to be dark?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
They go off and sleep during the
Yeah,
day.
for sure.
Salt and seeds. Have you heard this one?
I have not.
This one I always thought was legend for leprechauns and other things like fairies and stuff. But supposedly if you drop salt on a floor or salt on a table, vampires are required to count every grain of salt.
That just seems asinine. So I'm not going to count it.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that in a vampire movie where they are, going after the victim, chasing the person, and they drop over, they knock over some salt, and the vampire has to stop and count it.
Yeah, that seems kind of ridiculous, actually. So, yeah.
That takes me into my next question for you.
Fire away.
Do you have a top 5 vampire movies that you believe are the top movies out there for vampires?
What are my top 5 vampire movies?
Yeah, do you want to start going back and forth on that?
Yeah, I think so. I think we can do that. Do you want to start?
I'm going to go ahead and start with my honorable mention before I get into my top 5.
So it's really your number 6.
My number
but
6.
Go on. We were doing top 5, so please give me your number 6.
Hey, your trivia is not always 5 questions.
Yes, it is.
I'm going to give a shout out to Abigail as my honorable mention, only because I wanted to put her on the list, but I feel like it's too new and wasn't.
Why is she too new?
I don't know. I just felt like it wasn't the best vampire movie out there, but I did really like it recently, only because I love the different twist on it that they gave us this little girl who turns out to be a badass vampire. I liked it, but it didn't fall in my top 5 is what I'm saying.
Right. It's number 6.
So I'll go now to my number 5, which is From Dusk Till Dawn.
From Dusk Till Dawn. Solid fucking choice. Absolutely. My number 5 is Dracula from 1974. It is the first Dracula movie I think I've ever seen. It stars Frank Langella. Always the coolest. If you go look at the cover art for it, it's the coolest fucking cover art. It's just him, badass feathered hair, and a woman laying in front of him with her neck exposed because he's going to bite the neck. But that was my first experience into vampire movies, followed by Love at First Bite with George Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
And so those 70s movies will always be my introduction to vampirism and vampire movies. And yeah, loved them.
For me, I don't think I ever saw any vampire movies in the 70s. I was always stuck on slasher movies. That was kind of my thing back then. So none of them on my list are from the 70s, but that's one I should check out. I've heard some good things about that.
Oh, it probably does not hold up whatsoever,
Oh, yeah.
but that's maybe the fun of it. But again, I haven't seen it in a long time, but
I'd love
yeah.
to see different portrayals of Dracula and vampires, things like that.
Sure.
For my number 4, Dracula Untold, a newer movie that I like them going into legend of, Dracula and kind of almost making him a hero.
Who was in that?
Luke Evans.
Oh, is that the one where he becomes a vampire in order to save his family and his kingdom and all that kind of good
Yeah.
bullshit?
It was supposed to be a series of movies. It wasn't
Yeah.
just supposed to be one movie. I think it was part of the new Monsters Unleashed or whatever it was.
Or the Universal Monster
Universal Monster
series?
thing
Yeah.
That they were introducing Dracula into it, and then they were going to all do the Avengers thing and get together with all the other movie monsters.
Yeah. I might have seen it, but I like Luke Evans, so maybe I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's a fun, and I wish they would have done a sequel because they really did set up for an interesting sequel.
Yeah. My number 4 is 30 Days of Night.
Oh, good one.
I love that fucking premise. You're in Alaska. You have 30 days of no sun. Naturally, it's time for the vampires.
Yeah, what better place for them to show up?
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure everybody fucking dies except for Josh Hartnett. So I
Well,
liked it.
except
No, he does die. He turns. That's
he-
right.
He turns himself into a vampire to fight them, only to burn up at the end.
Right. Yep.
Sorry
Good
for
fucking-
spoilers.
Good flick. Good flick. What's your number 3?
Number 3, this may be a little controversial. I don't know if you've seen this one. Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
I have seen it. It's very good.
I
thought it was very entertaining and a lot of fun.
I actually started by reading the book and then went to, it's by the same type of people or same publisher who did Pride, Prejudice, and Vampire, or Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies, made Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. It's a great book. I thought it was a fun movie. It was a fun ride.
And it has the Falcon in it.
Yeah.
Anthony Mackie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was very clever.
Mm-hmm.
My number 3 is Blade 2.
Blade 2. That's an interesting. Why Blade 2 specifically?
Because it's better than the other 2 Blades because the villain is better. The villain is more sinister. There's more at stake. Blade falls in love, can't have the daughter of the vampire king, is destined to be alone. The effects are great. Guillermo del Toro does it, and he's a director that I really enjoy as well. I just think that it really comes down to the villains. I think the villain is better in 2 than in 1.
What's the name of Blade's helper?
Whistler.
That they basically like blow him up in that movie and then somehow bring him back in the 3rd movie. I never quite understood that.
What's not to understand? They
Did
turned
they
him.
piece him back together?
No, they didn't blow him up. They turned him in the 1st movie, and they think you blow him up,
Oh,
but he was just turned.
oh,
That's
okay.
why he's an asshole in 3.
Mm.
Or is he even in 3 other than flashbacks or like on a video?
No, because 3, Whistler's daughter comes in. I think
Yeah.
they kill him right in the beginning again. Oh no, they blow him up in 3, isn't it?
Maybe it's 3 they blow him up in, and
And the
Blade's
daughter shows-
looking for him in 2.
Yes,
That's what it is. Yeah, okay. Listeners, if we're wrong, go ahead and tell us. What's your number 2?
Underworld.
Oh, for fuck's sakes. Of course it is.
I just loved. I mean, the story actually comes long before the movies, but I just love the idea of humans are just a side story in a long, occurring war between werewolves and vampires. And I thought they did the lore pretty interesting in it.
Yeah.
And Celine, freaking Kate Beckinsale, hot as hell.
Well, you'll get no argument out of me there. Yeah, it definitely does classify as a vampire movie. So there you go. My number 2, Interview with a Vampire.
Why that one?
Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise. Fuck, take my money. I loved it. I think that Lestat is one of my favorite Tom Cruise performances. And I love how he bounces off of Brad Pitt's demure type character, Louis. And then you add Kristen Dunst, Antonio Banderas into the mix, and just the setting and the years and years and years of the progression from the 1800s or wherever Brad Pitt gets turned all the way up to the 80s when he's having the conversation with Christian Slater. I really enjoyed that movie.
For me, I think that was probably one of the best made movies, vampire movies that I've seen, as well as the best acted, but it wasn't a fun ride for me. I just felt like it was just kind of a long, like historic piece that didn't draw me into the movie. But I agree with you. One of the best made movies out there for vampires.
Yeah.
And Kirsten Dunst did an incredible job for her age at that movie.
Yeah. And what's your number 1?
Number 1, again, controversial pick. What We Do in the Shadows with the actual movie version with Taika, what's it?
Taika.
With Taika Waititi. It almost felt like a cross of the show The Office with vampires, basically doing, this group doing a documentary on vampires. It was a fun ride. It's funny. Just all around something people should watch. And if you like the TV series, watch the movie. If you like the movie, definitely check out the TV series.
Yeah, I was debating where to put that in this list because I do enjoy that movie. So it would probably come down at my number 6.
Mm-hmm.
It'd probably be right there
Your
because
honorable mention.
I love Taika Waititi and I'll watch anything he does. So my number 1 is From Dusk Till Dawn.
I had a feeling that would be your number 1, mainly because of the director.
Well, it's not only because of the director. The story is fantastic. The first half of the movie is a crime drama, and the second half of the movie turns into a fucking horror film, a vampire flick, and it's full nonstop from the moment they get to the titty twister to when they come out of the bar and the sun comes up. It's go, 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 and I fucking love it. Robert Rodriguez directs it. Quentin Tarantino and Robert write it. George Clooney, Harvey Keitel, Juliette Lewis, Danny Trejo, Cheech Marin. Take my money.
Well, you didn't mention Selma Hayek.
Oh, fuck me. Selma Hayek. Oh, I don't like the snakes, but I will watch that scene.
Mm-hmm.
So she trumps my fear of snakes, I guess. There you go.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, besides these movies, do you have a favorite person or persons who have actually played vampires?
Who are my favorite vampires as characters?
Like actors who have played vampires. Who do you think has done the best job portraying a vampire?
Oh, that is a good question. I think
Robert Pattinson.
Who did he play?
He played Edward Cullen in Twilight.
I thought we were talking about vampires.
Oh, that's not a vampire movie?
No, it's not a fucking vampire movie. What the fuck is wrong with you? They don't fucking explode when fucking sunlight hits them. I don't give a fuck how vampire-y you are or are not. When sunlight fucking hits you, you fucking explode or catch fire. You don't fucking sparkle.
Well, I just figured it was because you don't really ever see them drink blood and they don't have fangs.
Yeah, whatever. They're not fucking vampires. They're not vampire movies. It's fucking dumb.
Okay, then who is on your list?
Okay. Now that I got that out of me. Who is my favorite vampire? Even though it was a long, boring type movie, Gary Oldman as Count Dracula in Bram Stoker's Dracula. I think he did a fantastic job there. Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt from Interview with a Vampire. And even though he is a daywalker, I think Wesley Snipes crushed it as Blade.
Mine is pretty much the same. The only difference is, and it wasn't on both of our lists, but I thought Kiefer Sutherland did a great job with David.
Oh, he did. He did.
And I really, because like I said, he stole that movie. That was Kiefer Sutherland's movie. Besides that, I had Celine on my list. And I thought Tom Cruise really did a good job in Interview with the Vampire.
Yeah. Yeah. So there you go.
Hey, Don.
Yo.
Do you hear that tapping at the window? And aren't we on a second floor? Why is Ken just floating out there?
Hey, dude, what are you doing out there?
He wants us to let him in. I'm staying here tonight, okay?
Okay. Hey, we'll do like they do in Shaun of the Dead when they're standing outside of the window. When the zombies are standing outside the window, we'll just close the curtains. Go close the curtains.
Okay.
Go.
They're closed.
Speaking of which, there's a movie that we didn't mention that I forgot, and I actually haven't seen it, but I really want to see it. It's called Let the Right One In, and it's about a little kid who befriends a vampire, and she watches his back, and it's about a friendship.
I think I've heard of that one. I haven't seen it.
There's another one I want to see. I don't know if it's vampire or not. It's called To the Bone with or Something to the Bone with Timothée Chalamet. I think they're vampires or cannibals, one of the two.
One movie I would recommend to listeners to check out. I believe it's from 2015 called Freaks of Nature. It's currently streaming. It's a really goofy, somewhat dumb movie, but so dumb that it's funny and entertaining. It's basically about a town of just all of its citizens are either vampires, zombies, or humans. And they've all made some kind of agreement to live in peace. They go to high school together, and it's kind of a metaphor for different cliques in high school, things like that. Well, anyway, they start to rumble, start to fight, their truce starts to go away. But then aliens attack the town, and they all have to come together to fight the aliens.
What's it called?
Freaks of Nature.
I'm going to have to check that out.
Like I said, it's so dumb, it's entertaining.
All right. Well, there you have it, listeners. And so that is going to wrap it up for this episode of Three Guys and a Flick. If you would like to know which movie we're going to be reviewing next, please check out the website. Speaking of which, hey, John, where can they find us?
They can find us at threeguysandaflick.com, where we go ahead and post all of our show notes. All of our podcasts are available, and there's a form on there where you can go ahead and submit the movie you would like us to review next. You can also find us at all of social media or any place that hosts podcasts. And while you're listening to us, go ahead and give us a comment, give us a like, subscribe. We'd love to hear from you.
All right. I just want to thank Jay Namaste for throwing this into the Bronco helmet. We had a lot of fun watching and reviewing it. We hope you had a lot of fun listening to it. I also want to thank anyone else who listens and who has suggested a movie. If you keep listening, we'll keep recording. For Three Guys in a Flick, I'm Don.
I'm John.
Ken, we're finishing. Are you going to come in? No, he's still floating out there. He says something about inviting him in. Just invite him in.
Oh, hell no.
Why not? What's the worst thing that can happen?
Three guys with some mics, yeah, dive into the flicks. We're here for the real talk, no time for the tricks. Don as the captain, steering us right. Kid drops knowledge, shedding light. John with the comics, bringing the hype. From the good, the bad, to the absurd, we break it down, make sure you heard. Passion for the screen, we ride or die about movies. You know we always give a fuck, no lie.
But they have a Superman number 14.
Batman number 14.
Oh, I thought it was Superman because it was a call out to Richard Donner.
No.
Sure, I have it written.
I'm positive I just watched it. And,
My name is Don.
no, I already did that.
No. I
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah, no, you did. Because everyone was like, ooh, The Lost Boys. We fucking love The Lost Boys. It's so good. It's Joel Schumacher's best movie.
We should include that in there.
It's so good. Kiefer Sutherland is so sexy. And I'm not going to lie, he's a bad-looking motherfucker. And it stars Corey Feldman. Why is Corey Feldman top billed?
I don't know. That's the way it showed up in the Wikipedia.
Have to move to the seaside town of Santa Clara in a sunken luxury hotel in a
sunken luxury hotel.
That night, the gang attacks the Emerson home. That night, the gang attacks at night. Musical hit. I like that. Okay. All right. What do you got?
I only had one this week. It was The Lust Boys.
The Lust Boys. Yeah, that's kind of where I came up with too. I also came up with The Lust Joy. That's dumb, but yeah, there you go.
Oh, I did have one more.
Oh, what was it?
The Suck Me Dry Boys.
And you know what? That is going to be the winner this week. All right. May all of your days and nights be filled with happiness. All right. Fuck off. Good night.
Tune in to the thrill, catch the vibe. As three guys in a flick, keep the passion alive. Fuck that guy.